On this video, I'm going to be talking about the truth about trauma, how it continues to affect you and be like a heavy, dark rain cloud. No matter where you go, no matter what you're trying to do, it is always there. And I'm going to be sharing some tools to help you break free from it once and for all. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Kara Michelle and I am here to help you live your truth. And on this video, breaking down the truth about trauma, I really want to share some personal stories of my own healing work through trauma, as well as break down some of the ways that trauma continues to be stored in your mind, body, and soul. Now, the thing with trauma is that this can look like a really huge, like stereotypical traumatic event, such as car accidents, assault, rape, like grief and loss, different kind of like really heavy things that we hear about or see about or experience. It could also be things that we might not characteristically assign as trauma. And when we look at it this way, pretty much everyone has some sort of memories of trauma from their childhood, and that is because our child mind and our child brain, when it's in its early development, it doesn't understand everything that's going on fully. So something as simple as getting in trouble when you're younger, or like being yelled at by a parent or a teacher, for a child brain in this early developmental stage, that can be extremely traumatic, and it creates this trauma response in the body, this big association and memory and thought pattern around what is acceptable, what is not, and like that can dictate patterns later on in your life. So whether you're someone who has a deeply traumatic experience and you're watching this, or whether you're someone who maybe feels like, I don't really know if I had trauma, I guess my disclaimer is that you probably do of some kind. It just might be of a different magnitude, okay? So what I want to start with is I was gonna try and draw a brain to show like how the brain is impacted by trauma, but like let's just say that drawing didn't really look like a brain at all. So I was like, I'm just gonna turn this brain into a cloud and create that rain cloud, that heaviness, that darkness, right? And you might not think that you're continuing to carry the trauma, but on a deeper level, it is most likely still there with you. So something that for myself, especially after being sexually assaulted, that was like a very traumatic moment. And what I think so many people don't understand is the way that the mind responds to this trauma in order to keep us alive. And the brain is a very smart thing. It knows how to function and it knows how to keep us safe and in survival. So a lot of times during moments of trauma, we have like our brain is kind of going into a fight or flight response, where either it is able to fight the situation, it's gonna like run, escape the situation, and a lot of times it also creates this disconnection and this disassociation from the physical body and the current reality, so that there is less immense pain. For example, when I was sexually assaulted, in order for me to mentally and physically cope with what was going on at that time, my brain had to go into this kind of disassociation of like separating the severity of the situation in order to continue to live. And so like for weeks after it had happened, I was like, I wouldn't even say I was in denial, but like my brain was not processing what had happened. It was like, oh, I'm just going to compartmentalize this and put this in this little box here and not think about what has gone on, because it's too heavy and it's too much and I don't really know how to deal with it. So it's better for me to just hide it here. What a lot of us don't realize is that we're still carrying it. So it's still impacting us, and unresolved trauma creates more problems down the line. So not only was that mentally affecting me and creating a lot of extra stress, a lot of insecurity and shame and guilt, and a lot of loneliness because I wasn't telling anyone what had happened, but it also leads you to then question the severity of what happened, because your mind has kind of tricked you into thinking it wasn't as big of a deal as it was. And this is why I feel like so many women, after being sexually assaulted or sexually harassed at work or having like really negative experiences, they don't come forward and talk about it, because their brain almost goes into this safety mode and like, oh, let me just like retract myself from this situation and try to stay safe and try to stay disconnected from the reality of it and the heaviness of it. And so then we don't come forward and speak up, because that is part of the trauma response and how our minds handle these things. So then I'm gonna do another video on this, and you can let me know if you'd find that helpful. But then we look at women who come forward and this Me Too movement and all of this stuff, and all of a sudden men and people are saying like, well, why didn't you come forward sooner, and like try to make us feel guilty for being honest about what happened. But like our brains literally try to keep us safe and keep us separated from the instance. So a lot of times the reason people don't come forward right away, firstly, is because they know they're going to get questioned like that. And secondly, is because their brains created this compartmentalization of what happened and is trying to keep them safe and just like separated from it and going on normally as if things haven't changed, so that they can continue to live their life without that trauma, right? So our brain's doing this as a safety thing, but it's not actually helping us. So I just wanted to share that. Deep breath. Okay. See, I've had some coffee today, so I feel like I'm talking so fast. So I'll just drink more coffee. That's gonna help. So a lot of times the thing is, whether you realize it or not, I want to look at the mind, body, and the soul and the impact that trauma has. So mentally, I've kind of explained some of that. You know, you go into fight or flight. There's this disconnect to keep you safe. A lot of times there's that's the best process for you to continue moving forward. And I know after my car accident, even that was a lot of trauma. That was definitely I had a lot of PTSD driving after that, and that's a lot to work through. And for us to understand, like mentally, it can be really heavy to kind of like figure out what's going on. Now, on a physical standpoint as well, trauma can be stored in the body. So depending on what your trauma is and where you hold these things, you could be carrying your trauma and it could manifest and come through as physical pain. And what I love about some of Louise Hay's teachings is about how you can heal your life by like healing your mind and your body, right? Because for me, I always felt like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I always felt like it was my responsibility to fix everything and change everything and make everyone happy, make the world better. And I was very overwhelmed because I didn't feel like I was doing a good enough job at it. It's interesting because I also had extreme shoulder issues. Yes, a lot of that is related to the fact that I played volleyball and the fact that I maybe didn't stretch enough. But it's also interesting because if we look on a metaphorical, is that a word? Metaphor. If we look from like a metaphor standpoint, like carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, it's gonna be heavy. So like you're gonna have physical pain there. If you have been sexually assaulted, a lot of women, there is actually a physical trauma that is carried in your womb and in your cervix because of the assault, because of the fact that there was something happening to you that you had no control over. It was extremely unsafe for you. It was traumatic. That leaves a physical imprint in your body. And so if you do not do the work to heal and release and understand this, that is something you carry with you, and it can manifest then into bigger problems. And Louise Hay, for example, ended up with like cervical cancer, I believe, and she had been assaulted at a younger age and never dealt with that trauma. So her beliefs were that this actually manifested now into cancer because she hadn't healed and done the work to release the trauma, release the pain and all the heaviness, and so it actually came forward as a physical manifestation. On an energetic standpoint, we are all energetic beings. We have our auras, like our energy fields. We have energy centers, right? You hear about the chakras. Those are the 7 main ones. You have ones on the palm of your hands and on the bottom of your feet. That's why grounding is so powerful, because you're connecting your energy centers of the feet to the earth. But if you have blockages in these energy centers because of trauma, those impact corresponding things, both emotionally and physically. So again, because of my sexual assault, my root chakra and my sacral chakra, the 2 bottom ones, were blocked. And through energy healing and working with different people in India, I was able to really become aware of this. And I could visually see, while I was meditating and doing Reiki, I could see that these chakras, instead of spinning like a normal wheel, it was like a square, and it was like don't like a square wheel on a cart. It's not going to move properly. It's not going to be doing what it's meant to be doing, or like what it's fully capable of. And I had this really powerful experience through this meditation and energy work where I really could connect and see what was going on because of my trauma. And it was fascinating because at this time, because that was something I hadn't healed and hadn't worked through, and at that point I really still hadn't really told many people about the sexual assault. Well, I was carrying so much trauma and such negative energy around that. I was actually attracting more men into my life who really didn't respect me and who were crossing boundaries, who were making me feel extremely uncomfortable, who were pressuring and controlling, and like I felt very, very unsafe. And I actually had a few more times where I was sexually harassed at work and at my yoga teacher training, and just like these patterns where it kept coming, and I was like, why does this keep happening? Well, it's because I hadn't released and healed the trauma. And this is something I talk to a lot of my clients about, the women who have gone through similar things, is that the release work is so important if you want to break out of those patterns and out of those toxic cycles, because the more you continue to carry it, the more it's going to continue to show up. So you have to heal it. You have to do this work to let go of it. This is something I could definitely help you with. If you're struggling with this, please reach out to me somehow, whether you shoot me a message on Instagram or check out my trainings and then book a call with me, right? This is something that I'm really passionate about, helping women and anyone to heal and work through, okay? So one last thing before I finish this video is when I was in Bali, I was talking with a friend of mine who I made there, and he had a lot of childhood trauma. And one thing he really struggled with was the fact that because he had experienced a lot of trauma, a lot of yelling, fighting, a really unsafe household, he had created a lot of disconnect when communicating with people. Because as a child, the safest thing was for him to almost like zone out and like disconnect, pull back from the present moment, because he had no control and it wasn't safe. So you think about your own life, where there were maybe times where something happened, you were getting in trouble. This could be like really serious or not super serious, doesn't really matter, but you were experiencing a situation that felt unsafe for you. And I want you to like close your eyes and think on whether you felt like you stayed present in that, or whether you felt like there was something in you that kind of separated and pulled yourself back out of that place, where then you weren't feeling like directly in that moment. And this can lead to, like I said before, disassociation and depersonalization that continues to affect us in the present moment now as adults or teenagers or whoever we are, right? As we get older, we might have patterns that cause us to create that disconnect that feels out of control, where you're like, why does this keep happening? Why am I like not present? Or for him, for example, he had to work extra hard on communication and on effective listening, because he realized that due to all the trauma, when he was in relationships and communicating with people, they could be talking, and even if they were telling positive things, his mind almost went into this same thing, like fight or flight safety mode, and it almost like pulled him back a little bit, so he wasn't totally present because it was used to this being a negative situation. And so it was like, I'm gonna keep you safe and pull you back here. But in reality, now he's missing out on connecting with other people, and he's missing out on relationships and really being present every moment. So if you're someone who can relate to that, this is a big thing, and awareness is step number one. So really creating an awareness on where this shows up for you and how it's impacting you and where it started from, what caused it in your life, okay? So I know this is personal. Feel free to comment if you found this video helpful. Don't expect everyone to share their life stories, but you're welcome to. If you haven't, my free mindset training, my 5-day challenge, oh my gosh. I feel like my breath, I'm so out of breath. You can give this video a thumbs up, that would be greatly appreciated. Please hit the subscribe button as well, turn on the notification bells. If you would like some extra help with this, please know that you're not alone. Please know that it's possible to heal and release. In my own life, trauma was a huge thing, for sure, for a lot of different instances. And there are still little layers, because I really believe, obviously, we're deeply impacted on so many levels. So there are little layers, but the magnitude that my trauma carries over in my life now is like minuscule compared to what it was for a long time. So if you're looking for help and support, please check out the free mindset training to learn more about my story and my programs and how I can help you with mindset work and with other energetic tools that I teach my clients. Please feel free to check out the 5-day challenge to release to thrive. This combines basically my 90-day program. It's a 5-day overview, so you get to do the meditations, the journaling, the release work, and really connect with who it is you want to be and how you want to show up in the world, which I hope for your sake and for everyone else's sake, you desire to show up trauma-free. You desire to give yourself the best possible life, and you realize that you deserve better than continuing to stay in these patterns and continuing to carry this pain every single day. So check both of those out, please, and I will see you on the next video. Thanks so much for watching.